The storms of Kirano 6 were unlike storms on any human world. They didn't roar, they shuddered, like the planet itself was remembering some ancient wound and exhaling its grief across the land. The sky was a bruised gradient of indigo and rust, the sun a dull ember struggling through layers of toxic haze. It was not a place meant for humans. It was not a place meant for anything soft, yet a lone human stood there, swaying slightly under the weight of exhaustion and a half-empty oxygen pack. Elias Ward had survived 2 ship crashes in his lifetime, one by accident, one by choice, but it was the silence after each that had carved itself deepest into him. He stood beside the torn hull of the Solace, the scouting vessel that had once been home. Its metal ribs cracked, open like the remains of some fossilized beast. He hadn't slept in 31 hours. He hadn't eaten in almost as many, but none of that mattered now, not with the soft, uneven breaths coming from the woman collapsed in his arms, her skin normally opalescent. Shifting gently between faint blues was now drained to a flat, sickly gray. Her pulse fluttered weakly beneath the alien patterns etched into her forearm. Her eyes, usually luminous like refracted starlight, were barely open. Elias swallowed hard as the wind clawed at his suit. The taste of metallic dust seeped through his cracked visor filter. He tightened his grip around her shoulders, feeling the tremors beneath her skin. "Just stay with me," he whispered, more to himself than to her. "I won't lose you." Not here. Her name was Arilan, though she had once told him humans could simply call her Ari. A xenobiologist. A diplomat. A mystery. She had always walked like she didn't quite touch the ground, like gravity treated her differently. She had been the first alien he truly spoke to without fear. The first to laugh at his grim jokes. The first to believe humanity had something left to offer the galaxy. Now she was dying in his arms, and the world around them seemed eerily still. Watching, somewhere far beneath the shattered valley floor, was an old, human Kirinon research outpost, a facility buried under sediment and half a century of storms. Ari had insisted that its medbay still had functioning nanomedical pods. She'd been right about most things, but getting there meant crossing a wasteland that didn't want them alive. It had begun hours earlier when Ari touched the wrong. Vime. Elias replayed it over and over in his mind as he staggered into the open plain. They had just left the ship, scanning for the underground facility entrance. A patch of bright crimson flora caught Ari's attention, rare even for this planet. Glowing faintly with internal bioluminescence, she knelt, brushing a finger along the petals. The reaction was instant. The vine snapped open like a mouth. A puff of spores burst into her face. Her scream tore the air. Elias had been too slow. Too tired. Too human. He remembered catching her as she collapsed, her limbs convulsing, her skin shifting colors in panic. The toxin worked fast, spreading through her alien biology in unpredictable ways. Her veins brightened. Her breath hitched. Her eyes dilated, then dimmed. She whispered something as she fell against him, something in her native language. Something Elias couldn't translate, but felt in his bones. Now, hours later, he followed the portable scanner's fading signal toward the hidden facility. The terrain churned beneath his boots, shifting slabs of dark stone, harsh winds carving lines in the dust. The horizon shimmering with dangerous thermal halos. Every step felt like crossing a graveyard of forgotten civilizations. And the sky kept darkening. The plain stretched for kilometers. A landscape shaped by violent storms and geological upheaval. Jagged basalt formations rose like the spines of buried titans. The ground quaked softly, vibrating with deep tectonic murmurs. The air carried traces of sulfur and electrical ions, enough to make Elias's lungs sting even through his filter. He trudged through it all. Ari's limp body cradled against him. Her weight was nothing compared to the fear sitting on his chest. He tried not to think about the last Time he'd carried someone like this, his younger sister, Mara, back on Earth, long before the evacuation. She'd died from lung rot after the atmosphere collapse, and Elias had carried her to a med station that no longer had power. He'd held her just like this, pleading, bargaining, breaking. Not again, he thought. He looked down at Erie, brushing a strand of shimmering silver hair from her cheek. Her species had no analog in human biology. Her blood shimmered faintly, her bones flexible yet strong, her pulse rhythmic like a subtle vibration. Even dying, she seemed impossibly fragile and impossibly alien and impossibly important. The first storm wall hit. Dust and glassy particles tore at his suit, ripping small tears across his arms. The wind shoved him sideways, nearly knocking both of them to the ground. Elias shielded Eri with his body, crouching low as sand sliced across his visor, he remembered. Eri's amused voice days earlier. Greater than you humans underestimate this world. She is alive in ways you cannot see. Respect her storms. He respected them now. He feared them, but he kept moving, crawling, stumbling, forcing himself forward. The scanner beeped from weak to strong. Elias turned toward the sound and froze. Half buried in the stone ahead was a shape that did not belong to the natural world. A circular hatch set into the ground, covered in soot and sediment. Its metal was tarnished but intact, its symbols faintly visible beneath layers of dust. He wiped a gloved hand across the surface. Asterisk, asterisk, Offsite Med Research, Facility Delta 4 asterisk asterisk. His breath hitched. The old human Kiranon collaborative site. Thought lost. Buried after the Great Concord War. Eri. We made it. Her eyes didn't open, but her fingers twitched faintly against his chest. Hope. It hurt more than despair. Elias gripped the manual wheel, groaning as he forced it to turn. The hatch resisted decades of rust, locking it in place. He threw his weight into it, teeth clenched, shouting through the pain. The metal finally screeched open, revealing a dark tunnel. A faint blue emergency strip flickered to life along the wall. Eri, hold on. We're close. He swung her onto his back, strapped her carefully, and descended the ladder. The facility air was stale but breathable. The corridor lights flickered, buzzing with intermittent power. Dust coated every surface like a forgotten winter storm. Elias moved slowly, scanning for structural integrity as he stepped deeper. The deeper he walked, the more the silence pressed in thick, haunted. Doors lined the hallway, offices, labs, habitation pods. Many were still intact. Faded posters hung on the walls with peeling corners, showing humans and Kiranons working together, smiling. Hopeful, a dream that hadn't survived. Elias pushed open a lab door. Tables still held beakers, holographic readers, broken vials. A personal datapad flickered to life when he touched it. A recording appeared, an old log. A human doctor spoke in a tired voice. Greater than joint research successful. Nanomed tech integration stable. But tensions outside worsen. I fear this place will be sealed long before its discoveries help anyone. Eri weakly stirred on his back, perhaps hearing her people's language. Elias gently touched her hand. He continued forward. Room after room revealed hints of the facility's last days, unfinished experiments, abandoned meals, children's drawings taped to walls, hearts full of hope suspended in time. At last, he reached the Medbay entrance. His heart thundered. The Medbay door slid open, and lights activated automatically. The room hummed with power. Too much power for a facility abandoned. 50 years. And at its center sat a nanomedical pod still active. Its display pulsed with foreign script. A soft mist curled around its edges. And beside it, a figure. Not human. Not Kiranon. Something in between. It rose slowly, turning toward Elias. Its skin was partially metallic, partially organic. Its eyes glowed a warm silver. It looked like a hybrid of the two species grown, not born. A being created by the research once conducted here. Elias instinctively raised Airy higher on his back. Protective, the hybrid spoke, voice layered with harmonics. Greater than, you should not be here, human. This facility is restricted. This medbay is my responsibility. Elias swallowed. Please, she's dying, poisoned by xenoflora. I need that pod. The hybrid studied Airy, its gaze softening. Greater than, I recognize her biology. She is important. Then help her, Elias said, voice cracking. Greater than, I am not your enemy, the hybrid replied gently. I was created to heal. But I cannot activate the pod without understanding your intentions. Why risk your life for her? Elias looked down at Airy. Because she's my friend. Because she saved me. Because no one else is left to care. The hybrid blinked slowly, then nodded. It approached them, movements graceful. Greater than, humans and Kiranons once dreamed of unity here. A dream undone by war. I was their final attempt to bridge between species, yet I woke to silence. Elias felt Airy's forehead, it was burning. What happened to the crew? The hybrid's voice dimmed. Greater than, fear, mistrust. They abandoned this place when the alliance fractured. They feared what they created in me. I remained waiting, hoping. It pressed its palm to the pod interface. The machine hummed awake, warm light spilling outward. Greater than, why do you humans cling to hope even when despair is easier? Elias lowered Airy into the pod. Because once you stop hoping, you stop being human. The hybrid tilted its head. Then perhaps I too wish to be human. The pod scanned Airy, displaying a holographic anatomy map. Her organs glowed, toxin spreading like fractal veins of fire. The system pulsed red. Compatible nanomed protocol. Incomplete greater than asterisk additional. Genetic sample required asterisk. The hybrid inhaled sharply. To heal her, the pod requires a compatible biological bridge. My genome shares traits with hers. I can merge my template with the nanomed sequences. Elias frowned. Will that hurt you? The hybrid hesitated. Greater than, it will terminate me. Elias's breath froze. You'd die for her? To fulfill my purpose, and perhaps to restore the dream that created me. Elias shook his head, voice trembling. There has to be another way. There is not. The hybrid looked down at Airy, then at Elias. But she matters to you. That is reason enough. The hybrid placed its hands upon the pod, light spilling across its arms. Its body shimmered, dissolving into streams of nanites, merging with the pod's interface. Elias watched, stunned, as the being smiled softly before disintegrating completely. The medbay filled with light. Airy convulsed inside the pod, then screamed, her voice echoing like fractured glass. The nanites coursed through her veins, rewriting damaged tissue, neutralizing toxins, reinforcing cellular structures. Elias pressed his forehead to the pod's surface as tears blurred his vision. Then silence. The pod opened. Airy gasped, sitting upright, color returning to her skin, eyes glowing brighter than ever. She looked at Elias. You carried me, she whispered. Through the storms? Of course I did, he breathed. Her fingers brushed his cheek tenderly. Before Elias could speak further, the facility shook. An alarm blared. A holographic display lit up. Greater than. Unidentified ship approaching. Low orbit. Greater than signal source. Unknown. Non-human. Airy's expression hardened. That isn't my people, she said. It's something else. Elias steadied her. Can you stand? She nodded. We should leave, she said. Together. Another tremor rippled through the facility. A shadow passed overhead, massive, predatory. The galaxy had found them, and it was not friendly. Elias helped Airy to her feet. She leaned into him, her newly healed body still adjusting, her breath warm against his shoulder. He looked toward the ceiling. toward the threat descending from the sky. "Whatever's coming," he murmured, "we face it together." Aries' hand slid into his. "Together," she echoed softly. And somewhere deep within the ruined facility, the last wish of a hybrid being, half human, half alien, lingered like a fading echo. A bridge between worlds. Elias took a final breath as the alarms wailed. The future had arrived, and he was no longer alone.